Hello everyone, and welcome to the first gameplay walkthrough for ShipOS 1994. My name is Owen, and I'm the developer of the game. In ShipOS, your goal is to rebuild your family's former shipping empire. After a series of financial catastrophes, your business has been forced to sell all of its assets, but has still been left with a large debt to the bank. Your task is to repay this loan before it spirals out of control and the bank forecloses on you. So with that, let's begin. When we launch into ShipOS, we're presented with the login screen. From here, we can select one of our existing companies or create a new one. We'll go ahead and create a new company. First, we'll select a profile image, give ourselves a name, John Smith, and select a company logo, of which there will be plenty more before launch. And there we have John's Shipping Company. So let's go ahead and create that company. When we first load into ShipOS, we're brought to the desktop. From the desktop, we can see our company name along with the current version of ShipOS that we're running. This is Beta 4, the final beta before the demo build of Beta 5, which will be available to preview on Steam in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that one. But now, let's get started. First, we need to head over to the Go menu. The Go menu is where we can find a list of applications that we can use to manage our business. We have things like the global map, our list of ships, ports, contracts, and more. To get started, we're going to open up the contracts application. The contract application allows us to view available contracts and also to view contracts which we've already accepted. In ShipOS, there are 3 different types of contracts for us to accept: liquids, dry goods, and resources. Different contracts are worth different amounts and all require different types of ships to deliver. So we need to be strategic in the contracts that we begin accepting to ensure that we can deliver them and deliver them for a profit. To get started though, we're going to head over and take a look at the 2 contracts which we have to start with. These 2 contracts, both leaving from Atlantis and heading to Cuba, are worth $680 each. They're both liquid types of contracts, which means we can put them on the one type of ship. When we get started in ShipOS, we only have access to liquid type contracts. However, as we continue to play, we can begin to upgrade our profile so we can begin accepting new types of contracts and unlocking new types of ships. But we'll dig more into the upgrades later. Let's start off by accepting these 2 contracts. We can now head over to the Accepted Contracts tab to view these 2 contracts. From here, we can view more information about these contracts, including their full movement history, which we'll jump back into in a moment. But for now, to deliver these contracts, we're going to need a ship. We can access ships through the shop. As I said before, there are different types of contracts we can accept which require different types of ships. But there are also different sizes of ships for each contract type. Different ship types have different pros and cons. As you can imagine, small ships can carry much less cargo than their larger counterparts. However, smaller ships are more fuel efficient and can also travel faster, making them a great choice for shorter trips. Whereas we can use large ships to traverse longer distances thanks to their larger fuel tanks and also their ability to transport more cargo. We start off with the ability to just purchase a small liquid ship. To purchase larger ships, we need to first unlock them through the upgrades menu. Again, we'll jump into that one later. So we'll go ahead and order one of these ships to Atlantis, which is where our cargo needs to be picked up from. Now, we can do a regular purchase, which will have the ship delivered the next business day. However, since we want to get some of these contracts completed today, we're going to do an instant purchase, which will have the ship delivered to us instantly. While this does cost more, it can really help us earn some crucial dollars in these upfront days. So let's go ahead and order this ship to Atlantis. Now, to view the ship, we head up to the global map. The global map is where we can view the full game map. For now, we have some early ports in the game, but this will be expanded much further as we continue development. To load these contracts onto the ship, we simply select the port, select the ship, select the 2 contracts, and then we transfer the cargo. Now, to be able to get our ship to move, we're going to have to play the game so the game can continue. This ship has 2 contracts which are both heading to Cuba. So let's set our ship on its way. We can follow our ship on the map, or we can also open up its panel to stay tracked along as it continues on its journey. Now that our ship is in Cuba, we can open up the Cuba port, select our ship, 2 contract types, and just like that, we've completed our first contract. After completing our first contract, we're also introduced to Pinhead. Pinhead is our in-game virtual assistant who will provide you with some useful tips along the way and also provide you with some words of encouragement when you need them the most. Pinhead will pop up from time to time to congratulate you on random events and also to give you some handy pointers. For now, we're going to go ahead and close Pinhead. As he says, $1,000 can buy you a lot of ships. Well, that might not be fully true, but they're helpful words to have nonetheless. However, what we can see is our bank balance has grown significantly. What this allows us to do is to go in and purchase more ships or allow us to repay our loan, but we'll get into more of that later. For now, let's take a look at more contracts which we might be able to accept. Now, we have 2 more contracts both heading to Cuba. As you can see, these contracts are worth more than the previous contracts which we've just delivered. As we continue to successfully deliver contracts, our reputations with ports increases, meaning that they're willing to pay us more for the deliveries that we make. So we'll go ahead and accept these 2 types of contracts. We head back to the global map. We're going to have to send our ship back to Atlantis. To do that, simply click on our ship and send it back to Atlantis. While our ship is heading to Atlantis, is a good time to talk about how contracts are generated. So different types of ports can generate different contract types, and we can see that in the top left of the ports panel. Cuba, for example, cannot generate liquid type contracts, but can generate dry goods and resources type contracts. Now, since we can only accept liquid contracts, the only contracts we're going to have are all leaving from Atlantis, which can generate liquid type contracts and nothing else. Again though, take these 2 contracts, transfer them, and send our ship down to Cuba. As you can see, the sunlight in the background is continuing to intensify. ShipOS runs on a day-by-day basis. That means your progress is only saved at the end of each business day, and at the end of each business day, the interest on your loan continues to accrue. So it's important to make the most out of each and every day as you play through ShipOS. For now though, let's take these 2 contracts and offload them at the port. There we go, and as we can see, our reputation with Cuba has just increased more. For now though, let's call it a day. To do that, we can either wait till the end of the business day or come down here and click End Day. In our End Day menu, we get a summary of all the things that have happened this day. Over on the left hand side, we can see some key stats from the day, including the number of contracts that we completed. We can see our total income, which is generated through completing contracts. And below that, we can see our total expenses, which is from the purchasing of ships and also port fees as well. We have to pay a fee each day for each port that we have unlocked so that they can continue to maintain their docks. Over on the right hand side, we can see the loan balance that we had at the beginning of the day, the interest being charged, and the closing balance of the loan. If the loan balance does grow too great, the bank will foreclose, and that means we will have lost. Now, we can view this information in a bit more detail. You can save and continue. But first, pause the game, head over to the Go menu, Finance, and let's go back to day 1. So in day 1, we can see where all this money came from. Our $2,735 came from contract income, ship purchases of $200, port fees of $100, therefore giving us a total profit for the day of $2,435. Now, if we want, we can use some of that money to repay our loan. We can repay $2,000, or if we want to fund a major expansion, we can of course borrow more funds. Of course, the more funds we borrow means the more that we'll have to pay the bank each day in interest. But for now, let's repay this $2,000. And we can see Pinhead popping up over here, showing us that our loan balance is now only $1,043,000. So we still have a little bit to go. So why don't we go over and complete a few more contracts? As you can see, our contract list has grown, and so has the value of each contract. So let's go in here and accept these 4 contracts. Now we can head over to the global map while it's still nighttime, hit play, send our ship back to Atlantis. And we can head up to Atlantis and wait for its arrival. In Atlantis, we can see the 4 contracts waiting to go. So why don't we select our ship and try and load up 3 of these contracts. Each contract that we have here is worth 2 cargo spaces. Different contract types of different values will take up varying amounts of cargo space. Since this ship can only take on 5 units of cargo, as we can see over here, 0 out of 5 and 0 out of 5, if we take transfer, we can only take up 2 units with us. So we hit OK, we can come back for those later. So why don't we head down, send the ship back to Cuba, and let's come over to the accepted contracts tab. And in here we can view the history of each contract. So for example, we can see that we accepted the contract and then we moved it onto a ship. Now this one's called loaded onto ship, but if we had have named our ship something a bit more creative, it will come up with our ship name, allowing us to much more easily track where in the world our cargo currently is. So let's head down here, offload these 2 units, and away we go. Hey, Pinhead, being as helpful as ever. Now, let's go and complete a few more contracts. Hey, and look at that. Now that we've completed these additional contracts, we've actually earned the ability to upgrade. Up here we can see that we're now level 2 and have 1 upgrade point to spend. So let's go over and take a look in the profile menu of what we can unlock. In here, we can now purchase the ability to accept dry goods contracts, resource contracts, unlock different ports, or we can look at purchasing some modifiers. So in our ports menu, we'll jump into in a moment, we can upgrade our ports and ships. So for example, this will reduce the price of refueling at a given port by 10%. This upgrade here will reduce the cost of servicing a ship at a port by 10%. So since fuel is one of our major costs, let's go and purchase this upgrade. And now we have Pinhead popping up with a message, as you can see, is still in beta and hasn't been implemented into the game yet. So let's head back to our global map, close off Pinhead, and now let's open up the port panel for this port. The port panel gives us a more detailed view of a port. And so for example, for the port of Cuba, we can now purchase a fuel discount upgrade. It costs us $1,000, but will reduce the fuel cost at this specific port by 10%. Up in the top right hand corner, we can see the fuel is currently $3 per ton. Fuel will be a dynamic element in the game, meaning that some days it'll be more cost effective to upgrade ships, while on other days it will cost you far more money. We're going to quickly pause the game so we don't run out of time. And what we'll do is we'll purchase this upgrade for the port of Cuba. Now, when we click on our ship, we can see that it currently has a 85% service level and only 43% fuel capacity. This should say fuel, not cargo. So, to refuel our ship, we simply head up to the ship services tab and hit refuel. And just like that, back at 100% fuel. We can from here send our ship back to Atlantis if we want, or we can first head back and see where our contracts are. We currently have no contracts, and since it's approaching the end of the day, probably more effective we just end it here. Again, we get our overview of the day, including our total expenses for the day as well. So we hit save and continue. Pinhead pops up to show us what our current loan balance is, since interest was accrued on the loan overnight. So we can head into the finance menu again to see where our major income or expenses came from yesterday. From here, we can see that it was mainly down to ship maintenance and also $2,000 from repaying our loan. So we can quickly see here at a glance what our profit and loss looks like over these last 2 days. While we had one good day on day 1, day 2 isn't looking so good. To remedy this, of course, we'll have to complete more contracts, purchase new ships, expand our fleet, and continue to grow and grow and grow. There's so much more in ShipOS that we haven't shown you today. There's so much more to ShipOS that we haven't even begun scratching the surface of today. So stay tuned for future development updates, and I really look forward to showing you the full game as we get closer and closer to launch. Thank you for joining today. Bye bye.